Okay, alhamdulillah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق والهادي إلى صراط المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره العظيم بهمة الشيء أخبرنا بحبل المحضر وتعالى في من نظرة تأتي من البحر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد عبدك ونبيك ورسولك النبي الأمي وأزواج أمهات المؤمنين وذريات وأهل البيت كما صليت على إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم إني أسألك من كل خير سألك منه محمد نبيك صلى الله عليه وسلم وأعوذ بك من كل شر استعاذك منه محمد نبيك صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم اغفر لنا ما قدمنا وما أخرنا وما أسررنا وما أعلنا وما أنت أعلم منا ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وإنا نعوذ بك من فتنة المحيا ومن فتنة القبر ومن فتنة الدجال ومن عذاب النار وفي المصير اللهم صل على سيدنا Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm about to welcome everyone. My name is Brother Habib Rasul Miller. And as normal, I am here to introduce our weekly Maliki Fiqh class with our teacher, Shaykh Ameen Abdul Awul. And I'm not going to talk long so we can get to the main event, but I did want to share a couple of things. First of all, again, I want to welcome you all and congratulate you all for being here and taking advantage of the real deal, of the real deal. They say when you meet the ulama, the scholars of Islam, the shuyukh, the scholars, the sheikhs, they say when you meet a real one, it's like tasting chocolate cake. This is something I learned from Shaykh Ameen. When you meet a real one, they say it's like tasting chocolate cake. And how could you tell somebody what chocolate cake tastes like? You could try to describe it. Oh, it's sweet. It's smooth, it's chocolatey, but at the end of the day, they're not really gonna know what cake tastes like until they taste chocolate cake. So when you meet the real ulama, when you meet a real sheikh, when you meet the rest of them, you immediately can recognize who they are. I normally kind of give the same information when I introduce this class, but I wanted to say something a little bit different today and give more of a personal testimony, sort of inspired by our brother Haj Dawood, who gave the class last week. Alhamdulillah, may Allah reward him. But when I first met Shaykh Ameen, maybe around 2006, I had been interested in studying Maliki Fiqh. I had been interested in studying the madhab. And there were some people that were kind of famous among Muslims from America who went overseas and studied the Maliki madhab. And just before I met Shaykh Ameen, I had the opportunity to travel to Senegal for 5 days. And there I met Sheikh Hassan Sisi, the famous renowned Sheikh, Sufi, humanitarian, Maliki Fiqh scholar from Senegal, West Africa. And I also spent some time with some Azhari scholars who taught Quran at the masjid on 55th Street in New York City, Sheikh Ahmed Douida, Sheikh Mohammed Douida. And when I came and I sat with Shaykh Ameen, I hadn't even spent a lot of time with the ulama, but I could immediately tell, that Shaykh Ameen, this was somebody who was real. And then he began to tell stories about his teacher, Dr. Suleiman Dunya, and before he even said his name, I recognized who he was talking about because Dr. Suleiman Dunya had given my father Shahada, and he had told me stories about this Egyptian island, this Egyptian scholar growing up that he met, that he took Shahada from and spent a little time with. I'm sorry, this is my son in the background. That's little Ibrahim. But he had told me these stories, and when Shaykh Ameen began to describe his teacher, I realized he's talking about Dr. Suleiman Dunya. So I knew I was in the right place. Then, as I began to spend some time with Shaykh Ameen and studying the madhab, I noticed, and you'll find with any two scholars, even within one madhab, they may have little slight differences of opinion, even within the madhab. But I noticed, by and large, all the opinions that I was learning from Muhammad. If you're gonna be here, you gotta be quiet, okay? Okay. I noticed the rulings that I was learning from Shaykh Ameen and the rulings that I was learning from the scholars in Senegal were almost exactly in sync. Whereas all these other people around the country who were saying that they were studying the madhab and whatnot, they didn't really line up the same way with what Shaykh Ameen was teaching and what the scholars in Senegal and Medina Bay were teaching. Then as time went on, as years going on, some of these other people who claim to be teaching the madhab and representing the madhab, I'm not going to say any names, they start to have even political views that would diverge it, that didn't make sense, that seemed unjust, you know. And over time, lately it's been making me reflect on how true that statement is, that when you meet the real ulama, you know, you can recognize them. And when you meet one, you can recognize another. When you meet one, you can recognize another. And we're really blessed and fortunate to have access to someone who has the information from the legitimate source. Again, we're learning the rulings from Ashar As-Saghir, an authoritative Maliki Fiqh text as taught by Dr. Suleiman Dunya, an authoritative Maliki scholar, one of the last great, complete, holistic Maliki scholars from Azhar, he's sort of the end of an era, right? And his top student, his best student in this part of the world, Shaykh Ameen Abdul Awad, we have that access. We can benefit from that. But then we also have the ability to benefit from his character and from his understanding of our context, and from him being, you know, to be frank, real, you know, him being a real one, you know, who walks the walk, talks the talk, and can give us guidance on how to understand and how to apply the rulings of our religion in this time. So rather than having to make a long story short, we had the opportunity to make a short story long. We don't have to go, you know, to be with 20 other people to take us for a ride and misinform us and everything before we finally got to the real deal. So we should really take advantage of it. And we should, alhamdulillah, inshallah, now if we're paying attention, we've learned not to get duped. Not to get duped by people who come and they look the part, they can speak Arabic really nicely, but when you dig into their perspective, the information they're giving, the understanding they're giving, we find is faulty. Inshallah, we're not going to be duped by that anymore. And this was one of Dr. Dunya's objectives. You know, Shaykh Ameen shared with us a story of how Dr. Suleiman Dunya, rahmatullahi alayhi, anhu, he was teaching in the Islamic Cultural Center on 72nd Street. And after some time, you know, Shaykh Ameen and some of the brothers, they found Dr. Dunya. He was crying. He was sad, and they asked him, "Why are you crying? What's wrong?" And he said, "The Rabiata Islamiyya, the Muslim World League, they're not giving me my stipend, right? They're not giving me my stipend. I need my stipend to be able to feed my family." And so the brothers asked, "Why are they not giving you a stipend, Sheikh?" And Dr. Suleiman Dunya said to them, he said, they don't like me teaching you fiqh and deen the way that I'm teaching you. Because with me teaching you this way, they won't be able to fool you anymore. And of course, the small army of brothers that were around Shaykh Ameen and Dr. Dunya at that time went and they kicked in the doors of the office of the Muslim World League and they make sure Dr. Dunya got his stipend, you know. But this is the kind of work and the kind of fight and struggle that these people put in, that our teachers put in, for us to be able to have access to the information, to be able to govern ourselves, and to protect ourselves from people who would want to mislead us and take advantage of us. So I wanted to share that. Without further ado, I'm going to stop talking so we can hear from our teacher. But I wanted to share that, and inshallah, I also want to let people know if you have any questions, please type them in the chat. And at the end of the class, inshallah, we will ask as many of the questions as we have time to ask. Assalamu alaikum.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم صل على محمد النبي الأمي وأزواجه أمهات المؤمنين وذرياته وآل بيت كما صليت على إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أنا بعد. So I apologize that I couldn't be available last week on Sunday, but the good thing that came out of it was that two of the people I had the conference with took Shahada, and Alhamdulillah, it's very important that we try to help the people in need to understand Islam properly. So one of them had taken Shahada. I made him come and meet with me on Friday because I wanted to make sure that he understood what his Shahada meant and had the right information and wasn't just doing it for some other reason. In any case, he was authentic, and after I talked to him for a little while, I realized that he understood about the unity, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is him being the seal of the prophets and the messengers. So those two things, when we deal with people who are processing Islam, are the main things that we have to discuss with them. My teacher wouldn't allow talking to them about Ramadan, making prayers, none of that stuff could be discussed with them until they had complete understanding about the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being the seal of the prophets and the messengers, and that there would be no messenger after him. So this we call Iman. And this subject linked with Islam, which is the practice of the Iman, are the two things that make up a Muslim's life. Iman and Islam. The Iman is the discussion of the unity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the history of prophets, and the end of prophethood with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Main subject. After that, we talk about the angels and life after death, paradise and hell, and how people are rewarded, those type of things. But first, the unity of Allah and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being the seal of the prophets and messengers. Now, Islam is a little bit more complicated because people many times can think that they're practicing Islam and not be practicing Islam. So the true practice of Islam has to come from knowledge. You can't establish true practice of Islam without knowledge. And in that venue, the jurisprudence or fiqh, it's like you can't do without it and practice properly. So what I found, especially here in America, is that you have many people who believe that they're practicing Islam, but in fact, they're practicing their idea of Islam. See? This is very detrimental because people are doing themselves a disservice to the point that they start to believe that they know what they're doing. So a shortcut for you, and they really don't have many shortcuts in this subject matter, but so that I can keep you aware, for those people who think that they understand Islam, they understand jurisprudence, Islam, they have to look at what would tell them besides them telling themselves. And what would tell them is, if they can look back in their history and find some learned scholar that they spend some time with, and to be accurate, you have to spend a lot of time with them. You can't, it's not just like I did a 3-month course and I became a scholarly person in jurisprudence. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. But if you spend a lot of time with them and they told you at some point or another, you got it now. If they gave you paperwork, it's even better. But people have to be true with themselves before they can help the Muslims. They have to have the right credentials. Now, I want to respond to 2 questions that I heard from last week. And as I listened to the questions, I thought about Frank. Frank is one of my students who is consistent. Hajj Dawood is consistent. Abdullah ibn Islam is consistent. Nick is consistent. I have over the years had many consistent students, and I can listen to them and watch them and know that they have learned. Dr. Habib Rasul was consistent. So the question regarding the sister who wanted to know what she should do when Sujood Tilawa is said, and she is on her ministration. So this, in fact, is not a question, because we wasted time on something that actually it doesn't exist. Because if she is on her ministration, she's not liable for anything that has to do with prayer. If she wanted to make Sujood Tilawa, the jurists tell her, this is not for you right now. So even if you hear Sujood Tilawa and you're ministrating, you don't do it. It's not for you. So that's not really a question that anybody could answer, because it's not for her. And it's also not for anybody else who doesn't have purity at that time that the Sujood Tilawa is mentioned. You see? Sujood Tilawa is in the Quran, in quite a few places. It's a verse that says that you should bow down. And literally, that's what it means. So my teacher used to say, when an imam is going to use the verse for Sujood Tilawa, use a verse for Sujood Tilawa while he's leading the prayer, he should in fact notify the people who are praying behind him, that there will be, in whichever rakat, Sujood Tilawa, so that they will be alert to the fact that when he bows down in the before ruku, makes sujood, he's not making a mistake. He's following Sujood Tilawa, so that the people don't be confused. He should warn them ahead of time. I will make the Sujood Tilawa. Habib, hold him up again. Hold Ibrahim up again. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. What wonderful children. Okay, so Allahumma salli wa salam mubarak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Thank you, Habib. So if a person that's not in wudu or doesn't is what they call ganoob, it means that he has the impurity, spiritual impurity, and the only way to free himself from that is to make wudu or ghusl. He has to know that until he does that, sujood tilawa is not for him either, unless he has made a tayammum, and he can only do that if there's no availability of water, as I talked to you about a few weeks past. So this question is not really a question for the people who don't have purity. You see, it's not for them. Allahumma salli wa salam mubarak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. So that is a question that I wanted to make sure that Frank understood that. Because, he's one of my newest students, and I don't want him to be confused. He's very smart man. Asks really good questions that he's thought out. So as not to confuse him, I had to go back to this thing. The next thing is something called Beya. Beya, it means kind of different things in these two venues. One venue is in the Sharia, and the other venue is in the Tasawwuf. But Tasawwuf also must be applicable to Sharia. It can't, it's not no subject outside of law in Islam, but it has some different connotations, different meanings than in jurisprudence. One of those is the word Beya. For the people of Tasawwuf, it meaning that they follow some system of an orderly manner of trying to cleanse their heart. And just like in any other big profession, it requires that the person administering it has to be of the highest level, both of spirituality, spiritual knowledge, and knowledge of Islam. He can't be somebody who he has some kind of idea that he can heal things or something without having the knowledge on how to make his prayers properly. So in history, you couldn't do tasawwuf or Sufi from a true sheikh of tasawwuf. You would have to apply yourself first to a level of understanding of Islam. So they would teach them before they made the intricate zikr. They would have to learn more about how to make their prayers, how to do fasting, more about the adab of being a good Muslim. These type of things are the things that they required from you. And in the process, many times they would have to administer something to the person that may not have been pleasant to them. Like they told a story about a man who was the top scholar in his part of the world. And he realized at some point in his life that he was losing his balance, mainly because people were like telling him how smart he was all the time, and everybody's coming to him asking questions and these type of things, that he wanted to check himself so that he didn't lose his humbleness and humility, which is a great part of being a good Muslim, especially if you're going to claim scholarship. Humbleness and humility are absolutely necessary so that you don't lose your balance. So he decided to go and study with the leading Sufi scholar. And of course, because of his level of knowledge already regarding the jurisprudence, he didn't have to learn how to make his prayers, and he didn't have to start from that beginning place. So where did he start? The historians, the history in Islam say he started in the bathroom. That the Shaykh, when he came to him and he asked him, are you going to be able to, take this medicine? Because if you don't take the medicine, you can't get healed, or it won't, this is like not going to serve a purpose for you. So, so he promised him he would take the medicine without giving him a hard time. This, in fact, is bayah, because he's following the instructions of in our words, it would be the doctor, and the doctor's telling him, you can't give me a hard time, else I won't be able to help you. So he gave his word. When you give your word that you're going to follow what would be useful to you, that's bayah, especially in the tasawwuf world. So he started in the bathroom because that's where he was instructed to go. And they say that this great big sheikh is in the bathroom cleaning up all day long, all day. And people would come in the bathroom, they would see him in there. Everybody knew he was famous. Everybody knew who he was. And they said, they would ask him after, the day is over, said, well, how do you feel? Like, you're a big ulama, you in there cleaning the bathrooms all day. Why did you come here just to clean the bathrooms? He said, well, when I came, I didn't know I was a clean slate. I had no idea on what I was going to have to deal with. But what I had decided was, in order to help myself through the Shaykh, whatever he told me is what I was going to do. That's bayah. So after his treatment, when he went back, historians say he was the best scholar. He was better than he was before he left. Humbleness and humility is what his Shaykh knew that he needed. So oftentimes, no matter how big you think you are, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can send you somebody who can help you. See? That's bayah. So after my teacher explained these things to me, he explained me what to what was not bayah. that the people at the time, in my era with him, were requesting bayat from people before they could participate in their program. Here we go. So these programs that were requiring people to pledge allegiance to them actually had no right to do that. According to my teacher, you can't vow allegiance or that you're going to follow somebody who is not qualified to lead. First of all, you can't follow the neighborhood little masjid over the masjid that has the scholars in it, because in the neighborhood little masjid, what they're calling Islam may not even be Islam. Case in point, I was in the Islamic Cultural Center, the sister came in, and she asked me a question. I was teaching a class. She sent me a message, asked me a question regarding a neighborhood masjid that the imam in the neighborhood masjid is requiring that to participate and be a part of that community, you had to take bayah. I said, what? Well, who is this person? You know, is he a scholar? Is and then I cut straight to the chase. According to the ulama, you can't take bayah from somebody who is not Amirul Mu'mineen, meaning you got to be the Islamic leader. If he's not the Muslim leader, the Islamic leader, he can't. Nobody could require bayah from you. That if they're not the Islamic leader, common sense. If you give your allegiance to somebody, and they tell you, okay, and this is a true fact. I'm not applying any type of my own thinking about this. This is fact. The sister said, and she was intelligent. She said, Shaykh, I went there and they told me they wanted me to run a program for a fashion show in the masjid. She said, but it didn't make sense to me that because from what I've been hearing from you is that the masjid is not for any other type of activity except ibadah. And, you know, men and women are not in the masjids looking at each other. So if they're giving a fashion show inside the masjid, you know, it requires some things that probably shouldn't be done in the masjid. And I just wanted to know what you thought. And I told her, well, yeah, you know, that first of all, that shouldn't be done in the masjid. You know, like when I was in Pennsylvania, they did something like that. They were playing music in the masjid. So these type of things, and the people there, you know, if you didn't follow that direction, then they wouldn't even let you hang around. See? So it's the same thing here in this little masjid in the city here, that the people wanted you to, you know, first you had to pay money every month or so, and then, you know, you had to take bayah, or meaning you have to give your allegiance. So Dr. Dunya said, well, in regards to this subject, let's say, use your brain, he said, let's say the person who is requiring bayah is not an accomplished scholar. We already know that because an accomplished scholar is not going to request bayah, because they know that that doesn't belong to them. That type of bayah belongs to people that have no knowledge. They have other reasons for your allegiance. The biggest one is the constituents are required to help the masjid with monies and putting in work, cleaning up, and this type of stuff. So they ask you to make allegiance to that masjid. So that means that if you took that allegiance, that oath of allegiance, and they asked you to do something that was not Islamically sound, and you gave your word to obey and give your allegiance, that means they're taking you out of what is Islamic. So even if a big scholar says to you, well, you shouldn't be doing that, or they shouldn't request you to do that or require you to do that in order to be a part of the Islamic community, they're making fitna among the Muslims. See, this is why giving bayah only belongs to certain people. They have to be the biggest ones, not to the generally. So, Frank, you understand me? So this is a very important thing that helps to keep the unity of the Muslims together and strong. Is right knowledge and then the right practice. And in this subject matter, you cannot invent your own idea. In Islam and jurisprudence, especially, you can't invent your own idea. See, if you do that, my teacher used to say, maybe they're Muslims. Maybe they're Muslims. And he's basing that just on the feelings in their emotion, in their iman, in their emotion of having faith, but not on their practice of Islam because they have no knowledge. So when you look at yourself and you say, what kind of Muslim am I? You first have to track your history of how'd you learn about this, how'd you learn Islam? If you learned Islam from like 10 different people, you probably don't really know Islam because you're gonna have 10 different ideas maybe about certain things. And if they're not taking you to the books of Islam and showing you, technically what is the most accepted policy in Islam, then you're not learning. You're getting some kind of idea, but you're not really learning. So what happens? The person who starts to spread this information, when all this, at the end of our time, and you got all these people who are practicing something that was not technically sound, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he can forgive. He may, because he knows what we're trying to accomplish. But my teachers used to say, he may forgive, not must forgive. And that we shouldn't take our deen, our religion, so lightly. We must do the right things to find out the right answers. And not be so anxious or willing to give an answer that may be, when it's traced back, where did this come from? It's traced back to us, and we gave bad advice. So that bad decision, and all the people that took information from that bad decision, and all the people who practiced their deen according to that bad decision, the sin of that will go back to its beginning. So if nobody taught you how to do that, and you just trying to use, you know, your own idea, this puts you in jeopardy. So you have to be extremely cautious of what you're telling people. The only ones my teacher used to give a pass to were the people who had actually put in their work. What I mean by that? I mean, what knowledge was available to them and what they had to do to try and obtain that, they did all that work. Then if they went and they found, you know, that it wasn't like the best caliber of learning, that's okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not hold them as a problem for their life if in fact they put in all the work and did everything they could do to find the right answers. See? So he said people in that bracket that have some type of scholarship and they make a mistake, but they tried to learn properly, Allah forgives that. He forgives that because of the effort they put in. See? So I had to give you this information so that you don't lose. We don't lose ourselves. We don't lose ourselves in our own self, thinking that we know stuff and humbleness and humility. See, good character. Good character leads to paradise, and bad character leads to hell. So I wanted to give you this type of advice. And listen, my sisters and brothers. The only thing I'm asking of you is try and keep me, in your prayer, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me, and to, allow us all to go into the Jannah. I don't ask you for nothing, except that type of thing. I love you. You're my people. I love you. So if in fact you wonder why Shaykh Ameen do this stuff, I'm telling you now. And many times I get a lot of problems and situations that come from me giving you this type of talk. I don't care. They have no control. Only Allah subhanahu Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has power and control. They can, I don't care, But being human, at some point, I do get tired of having to fight this battle, but that's what I was created to do. So, I have to do it. Yani. In any case, they have a saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. So it's my duty, after going on a path for so long, that I see downfalls and I see situations on this path that may injure people. And because I was trained to help the people to follow this path, if I'm telling you something, it's because it's something that I see. You may not see it, but it's big. This is big. So the other thing I want to tell you is don't talk so much. See? Too much talk is not good. People call me on the phone. If their talk with me on the phone lasts more than, let's say, 7-8 minutes, for me, that's too long. So anybody who knows me and talk to me on the phone, They'll tell you. They can tell you. Shaykh Ameen ain't gonna talk to you on the phone too long. That's just not his habit. I learned that from the ulama. Used to tell me that all the time. Don't talk too much. Don't talk on the phone. When people call you, they should be specific in what they're calling for. I don't have chit-chat time. I don't want it. If you want to chit-chat, you got to chit-chat with somebody else. Don't waste my time. Allahumma salli wa salam wa barakallah Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa salama taslimin kathira. So I'm satisfied that I gave you a talk that is very important. Very important. One, to obtain the right knowledge before you can obtain the right practice. The second is to know what is necessary in your heart to be considered as a good Muslim. It's more than reading information from the book. See, you have to put in the work. All this self-taught, and you may think that you have become scholarly, but I can guarantee you, you have not, because you're talking to yourself. The book can't even reply back to you. See? Okay, I've done my duty, inshallah. I'm happy with that information that I gave to you. So if you want to ask me something else, I will listen.
Thank you, Shaykh. Thank you, Shaykh.
You're breaking up.
If anybody I just said Jazakumullah khair. Thank you, Shaykh. Thank you, Shaykh. And I was saying, if anybody has any questions, please take a moment to type them in the chat. Or if you don't, if for some reason you can't type them in the chat, then raise your hand. There's a little button you can press in Zoom to show that you're raising your hand. And that way we can recognize you so you can ask your question, inshallah. See the Ishaq, I don't know if there's any questions on the YouTube, but if there are, please type them so we can ask them, inshallah.
Abdullah ibn Islam, is that you?
Assalamu alaikum. Yes.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. And Abdul Qudus, are you there? Can he answer me if he's there?
He can. I see him here, but he's on mute, so maybe he's not.
Okay, mashallah. Yeah, he may not want to talk, but alhamdulillah, Muhammad want to talk. But listen to me. There are some people in this part of the world that have been around from the beginning.
Yes, I'm here.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. So, salam alaikum. Want to talk. But, so, I want you to know that there have been some people here who have good, sound knowledge of the history of Islam in this part of the world. Since its inception.
Yes, I'm here. Yes. Yes, I'm here.
Abdul Qudus, I can hear you. So I'm telling you that, you know,
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Abdul Qudus has been a staple here for a long time in regards to knowing the history and participating in different time periods. The knowledge of history is what keeps a person from making the same mistakes over and over again. This is how I was taught. How I was taught was, my teacher used to say the only good thing about history is that it helps us not to continue to make the same mistakes over and over again. Okay, I'll listen, Habib.
Nah, thank you, Shaykh. Muhammad is following me around. I guess he wants to be
Yeah, that's
close
okay.
to us.
That's good. That's good.
Alhamdulillah. But a sister asked, she's saying thank you first off, and she also asked, if you are a woman, and I believe she means if she's praying alone, if you are a woman, are you allowed to say your prayer out loud, or should it always be silent?
Okay. Allahumma salli wa salam mubarak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. The woman's voice, when audible, is considered an aura. What that means is that it's something that everybody, some people should not hear it. Like her voice can incite into some men some kind of illicit feelings. She may not know it, you know. She may not even know it. She may not even know that they're listening. But from the man's side, he'll say, that voice sure sounds pleasing. I bet she looks like this or that. I wouldn't mind meeting that sister. So the answer is she should not make her prayers audible except if she's practicing how to recite better. And sometimes when you're practicing how to recite better, you want to hear yourself. So you should modulate your voice to the point where you can hear yourself, but your neighbor or somebody else who's maybe around, they can't hear you. So this is the proper way. This is the exact proper way. They even have among the jurists some that don't like the woman reciting Quran, like on recordings and things like that. But they make allowances for the ones that are really good at it. They make allowances for them that they're good representation of the recitation of the Quran. And in Egypt, in fact, when they have the yearly, they used to have a yearly contest. They say that the Indonesian women used to win it constantly, the recitation of the Quran, because they have these voices that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them that are so pleasing to the ear that the judges always used to pick them as the winner. And then the jurists, like the fuqaha, the people of knowledge, used to say, but actually we don't think that she should be doing that. But because she's so good and is so pleasing that it attracts so many people to Islam, they make special allowance for her. Okay, I answered you. And just be careful, and we always remember, women, they have certain obligations, especially in regards to this thing called aura. Things that people who are not like their father, their brother, their husband, their child, they shouldn't hear or see from her. Okay. As you like, Habib.
Yes, the sister asked a follow-up question. She said, so just to clarify, even when I'm home by myself and praying alone, it should be silent.
I didn't say it again.
So when she's home by herself and praying alone, and there's nobody around, nobody that for whom the voice would be aura, should she still pray silently?
She can pray the audible prayers loud enough for her to hear herself. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. But she should not say Bismillahir Rahman. You understand? Mushkida? So,
Yes, Sheikh.
okay. So this is
She's saying she understands too. She's saying shukran. She's thanking you.
okay. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Sheikh, our next question is actually from Brother Frank. He's asking, what are the questions and answers in the grave?
So that's a good question because it's of the most importance to a Muslim. It actually is the most importance to everybody. But the Islamic, the Muslim people, you know, it's a priority, whereas the other people don't really think about it that much. So there are things of faith. The things that I told you in the beginning of this lesson, that you have to deal with those first before you talk about the prayers, the fasting. Those are not like the most important questions, because you have to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have angels that keep track of all of that for you, for him, for later, so that you won't be able to say, oh no, I did that. You can't lie anyway to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there are angels, that is their duty, their only duty is to record your ibadah. So the thing that they don't really record is your faith. Your faith is in your heart. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who looks in your heart. See? And then when the angels come, one of the main, the first thing they'll ask is, who is your Lord? The believers will say, La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. They will ask, what do you think about this man? And that the believers will immediately say, Muhammadur Rasulullah. That Muhammad is the messenger, the prophet, and the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The people who don't know what to answer, who in the world where they were able to find the right information and didn't take the time to do that, and we're not even talking about practice right now. We're talking about belief. And those people will say, well, I don't really know. I heard different stories. And so that means that they had no faith. See? No deen, no faith, no iman. Their minds and their hearts are full of all kinds of useless things that will not be able to help them. Big Shaykh says, everybody has a deen, but everybody's deen is not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he gave an example. He says some people have these beautiful luxury cars, and that the car itself demands their maintenance in such a way that has become that person's deen. Another person, his deen is, how much money does he have? Another person's deen is trying to look a certain way, so that they start to worship themselves. You can see that many times in women. You want to turn the air on? It's going to affect the Sound? Want to try it and see. So, if in fact you are, looking at anything else besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as of utmost importance, that's your deen. So my advice to people is to keep Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a place that nothing else can get near it, and to learn as much as you can about what is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not what's pleasing to you. What's pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And many times this takes extra work. But the outcome of it is that when we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's a reward working for the people who have strived to find what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes. It's this air conditioner in operation making it hard for you to hear me?
No, Shaykh, it's not.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so what else can I do?
Yes, Shaykh. Someone asked, why is it impermissible to wipe over cloth socks? And what about women or men who wear nylon socks?
Allahumma salli wa sallam mubarak ala Sayyidina Muhammad. So if you're asking me why, that question is not such a good question, because it's like you're looking for an answer that it doesn't require an answer. The reason is because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did some things that we call sunnah. Those things that we call sunnah are his practices. And we're ordered to follow his practices. We're not ordered to invent anything else. His practices, the practices of the madhab, are considered as the practices of the sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So for me to try to tell you why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent that type of information to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be out of place. It would be like me trying to complain about something or to find out something that is not necessary for me to know. It's just necessary for me to do once I have reached the understanding that this is one of the practices of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the reason that we understand that they don't allow wiping over nylons or something is because the water that you wipe over your nylons with, you can feel the water through the nylons, that they're not thick enough and they're not made of some kind of element that will protect the foot from the water going through. So you have to take off your nylons to make wudu. You cannot make wudu over anything that allows the water to go through to the foot. Okay? So once again, I'm going to tell you, be careful trying to invent your own understanding, because you may be doing something that will nullify your Islamic practice out of lack of knowledge. So it's always better to take a little bit harder road and be safe than to try to take the easy place and don't have the right worship. See, because one thing follows the other. If you don't make your wudu right, then your prayer's not going to be right. Okay? So, just concentrate on learning and following instructions. Why is not always a good question? Because, it's like a challenge. It's like a challenge to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He didn't explain all the time why he did it. He just did it. And the people of belief, they would just do whatever they saw him do. He used to say, pray as you see me pray. And what that meant was in all actions, not just salat. So, as you like, Habib.
Alhamdulillah. Actually, the brother is apologizing for the format of his question, but I asked it the way he asked it so that you could so you could do what you did. So, inshallah, the brother didn't have to be sorry. We all learn from that, inshallah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's no such thing as a bad question. You know, it's no such thing as a bad question, because when you ask that question, some people that heard the question and the answer, they actually learned something from that. See? So I'm not condemning the question. What I'm trying to do is, they used to tell me something in college. We're not here just for you to take information. See? What we're here for is to teach you how to think. See? And that's something I try to transmit to my students. Don't just follow information. Think it out, think about it. See? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He likes intelligent worshippers. He don't want you just to be following. See? So that's not a bad question. But now that the person understands this whole thing about why, when you're dealing with actions of Islam, is not really considered as a good way. It's like a challenge to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Well, why should we do that? You know, not that they mean that exactly, but it comes out in a bad way in regards to, you know, people of the Sunnah. We only understand that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did it all the time. That means it's a Sunnah muakkada, you know, a major thing, you know, and we should do it too in order to gain benefit. Okay, as you like, Habib.
Can you hear me, Shaykh?
Yes.
Okay. So, Sister Zainab, and she's asked quite a few questions, but this I'm saying her name so you can know who she is. She said her brother.
Oh no, my say that's not my daughter. Okay, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I did. So she said, my brother Ibrahim al-Badawi passed away yesterday in Egypt. Could you please make dua for him? And inshallah. She said, you taught my dad back in the 70s and 80s. So it's been an honor to take your classes the last few months as well.
Yes, but I will make special prayer for him in sujood. When I'm in sujood, I will ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy on him, to forgive him, to give him the benefit of those people who will be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that I remember he's a good brother, you know, and I will vouch for him in regards to his trying to apply what he learned to the best of his ability. So you have to know that there will be some people amongst us who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow them to speak for other people. There will be people who have put in an extraordinary amount of work for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reward that He will give to them, one of the rewards He will give to them is to allow them to speak and help other people, even after when we're being judged. So for a person who actually loves his people, that is an ultimate goal. See, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept our prayers for someone else. So I will absolutely remember him in my sujood, inshallah. As you like.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum salam rahmatullah.
No. I'm sorry, my connection isn't so good.
Yeah,
We have one more question.
lately your question, your connection has been going in and out the last couple of weeks. Maybe during the week you can try and figure that one out so that you stop having that problem, inshallah. As you like, I'm sorry.
Inshallah. Inshallah. But we do have one more question here. Someone is asking, they're saying, within the time allotted for salat, what is considered the best part? What is considered the best time to make salat?
The best time for prayer, Allahumma salli wa salam wa barakallah Sayyidina Muhammad. The best time is at its exact beginning time. The best time is when the prayer first comes in and the person has the ability to make their prayer at its earliest time. That is the best time. But that is not the only time that you're in safety. The prayer may come in and you have something that you're doing, a loud thing you're doing, work or something like that, that you need to continue to do at that time. So you don't drive cabs, so you can't just pull your cab over in the beginning of prayer and run into the masjid and make the prayer, and then finish the prayer, jump back in your cab and go out and earn your money. No, everybody's not in that lifestyle like that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that, we wasn't always going to be able to do that prayer exactly at the time of the adhan or the Qama in the beginning of each prayer. So he gave us something called adda time. Adda time means that between this time and this time is all considered as good time. But the best time is always at the exact beginning of that prayer time. See? At the time was given to us because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that during the day we have things that we have to do to maintain our life. So they even advise for people who want to just sit in the masjid all day and wait for the next prayer. This is not a good practice. You got to get out. You got to earn. You got to take care of business. See? The people who think that if they stay in the masjid and make each prayer at the time of the adhan or the qama, they're in the best position. No, you're not. Abu Bakr Siddiq and Umar Khattabi and Huma used to chase them out of the masjid with sticks. Tell them, you can't hang out in here all day. You better go and make food money for your family. Or, that's not considered as piety. Just like a person making salat. If they keep their head on the ground while the imam is standing reciting, as if that's going to make their prayer better, absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. That is considered as really bad manners to the prayer. When the imam moves and reach his position, then you should move and reach your position. Don't take extra time doing prayer, and he's already moved on. So, Allahumma salli wa salam wa barakallah Muhammad. I'm going to give a whole, inshallah, class on what's called the adda time, the good time for prayer, and the qadda time, the overdue time for prayer. And this is a big lesson. It's not like something I can just take. So I'm telling you the general information is that the best time for the prayer, the best time is at its beginning. also considered as good time is any time before it's time for the next prayer to start. Okay, I gave you as much as I'm going to give today. As you like, Habib. That's the last
Alhamdulillah,
question.
Shaykh. That's all. That's the last question, Shaykh. Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you for all of the the information and the answers to the questions. Alhamdulillah. If anybody has any last minute questions, you better type them quick. But I think maybe that's all for the day, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. اللهم إني أسألك من كل خير سألك منه محمد نبيك صلى الله عليه وسلم وأعوذ بك من كل شر استعاذك منه محمد نبيك صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم اغفر لنا ما قدمنا وما أخرنا وما أسررنا وما أعلنا وما أنت عالم به من نار ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسن وفي الآخرة حسن وقنا عذاب النار اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الماء والممات. We want to give the right answer to the angels when death comes and we're in our grave. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الماء والممات ومن فتنة القبر ومن فتنة المسيح الدجال ومن عذاب النار وسوء المصير ومن عذاب النار وسوء المصير. At the end of all our affairs, let us have that which is good. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much, Shaykh. Inshallah, we see everybody next week.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Frank. Assalamu alaikum, Abdullah ibn Islam, Haj Dawood,